I've always wanted to help,
Yeah.
whether there was a struggle or not. Because again, I knew from when I was small that my life's purpose was to help people. I wanted to be a doctor at one point. I would say that more so after everything that I went through, it started with a sudden illness, like literally sudden. I went to work, everything was fine. Half an hour later, the room started spinning. By the end of the week, I couldn't even walk. Like I could not stand up straight. I stood up. Every time I would stand up, I would fall over. And what was supposed to be just take the weekend off and you'll be fine by Monday actually turned into 2 years of sick leave. So that in itself was very hard on the spirit and hard mentally and emotionally. I was in a relationship at the time. He ghosted me as soon as I got sick. So I had to give up my apartment. I had to move back home, lost the independence, had to rely on my parents. So coming back from that 7 years later is still a process for me, and I'm still relearning myself all over again. But I know that the one thing that has kept me grounded and humble is the fact that I have a voice and I have a story, and you don't have to go through the same thing as me, but we all have gone through something and we will all continue to go through things. So if I can sort of be the champion of that and knowing that there's strength and resilience and there's the beauty within that too, then I want to impart that wisdom onto others. I want to inspire and motivate and empower people through that. So that's basically the long and short of it. It was definitely a roller coaster. Because everyone knew me as being like the strong one and, putting everyone else first, helping everyone else first before myself, it took me a while to actually come to terms with what was going on. So there was a lot of denial at first, and there was also a lot of shame because I was always seen as the strong one. So I felt that I couldn't say I need help, or I felt like I couldn't say I'm struggling right now, can you just allow me to go through those emotions? I always felt like I had to put the mask on and hide it. And then only when I was behind the closed door of my bedroom or under the covers was when I would actually let everything out. But even then it was muted. So I did feel like I was alone, even though I knew I wasn't. I felt like I was extremely lost. And I felt like a failure too, because you're in your early 30s. At the time I was working in a hospital, so I was making good money, had my own apartment, good rent. So, you think you're living the life, and then when you have to all that is just taken away from you, and you have to go back and move home with your parents and rely on them. It was hard. That was a lot of ego though, but that's what I had to learn through the process. And at one point I just had to let go and just let everything out as it was coming out. And then eventually it was like I just woke up and said, if I don't change this, I'm just gonna continue sinking and sinking and sinking. And that's not to say that I don't still struggle with the mental health aspects that came out of all of that, because I do. But then I also remind myself of how far I came. And I remind myself that the shame and the fear and the loneliness that I felt at the time, it was okay. I needed to feel that. I needed to know what that felt like. I needed to understand what that felt like, so that when I look at where I am now, I can sort of reason with it all and find the balance, if that makes sense. And just know that everything will be okay within its own time. You can't force it, you can't rush it. And sometimes it's better to just let yourself ride that wave and feel it, versus always just trying to put another Band-Aid on top of it and just say it's okay. Put another Band-Aid on and say it's okay. That doesn't work. And that's when you just keep breaking down. But there's a lot of, definite truth bomb. There's a lot of freedom in just allowing yourself to be and to feel your emotions. And I think that a lot of times in society, especially for me as a Black woman and just as a woman too, then add on top of the factor that I'm African as well, so there's this thing of where you don't really talk about emotions in our culture. All of those things that were playing against me at that time, I know that it doesn't have to be that way, and I don't have to repeat that, and I don't have to do what society says you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to handle it. I'm a strong woman, yes. I'm a strong woman that just happens to be Black, but I'm also a strong woman who happens to be Black, who still has emotions and still has breakdowns, and that's okay. So, yeah, that's what it felt like. That's where I had to reason in the middle, and this is where I am now, here in front of you guys. Definitely stronger, but at the same time, I still have my moments where I'll just cry for no reason. And I never used to be like that. So now it's like, oh, the salty discharge. But now it's like, it's okay to have that salty discharge because it's a release, right? So coming to terms with understanding that emotions are there, it's natural, it's part of the process of you protecting and defending yourself. But then at some point you have to decide, are you gonna stay stuck in that, or are you gonna rise above? And if you're stuck in it for some time, it's okay, because maybe you need to stay there. Maybe you need that protection for a while to just sort of decompress. But then, there's so much life out there to still live. There's people, there's friends, there's connections like you guys, resources like you guys that are out there where you have a platform, you have a voice, there's another community that you can connect with, you can share, you can help someone else too. So I think it's, and all of that just adds to your spirit and it adds to who you are, right? So I think everything is a process, everything is a journey, everything is a life lesson if you choose to look at it that way. And if you don't, at some point, I hope that you find you find that peace at some point. But me, I'm finding my peace. Every day I'm finding my peace. So it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm good now, so it just stops there. No, it's a never-ending process. And I'm good with that.